Hey guys, I am out here at one of our fields right now, and I want to talk a little bit about checking for yield and what some of my evaluations are of the corn crop the way they're going right now. Uh, we talk a lot about growing degree days, growing degree units, how that is affecting things with this year's crop. We are behind normal. I just ran a growing degree calculator and we're about 180 growing degree units behind normal. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how we calculate growing degree units, we basically take the high of the day, the low of the day, add them together, divide that by 2, and then subtract 50 from the total. So if we have a high of 85, a low of 65, if I can do math, it's about 150, divided by 2 is 75, subtract 50, and we got 25 growing degree units for that day. So we're about, right now we get about 20 growing degree units per day. We're about 9 days behind normal for this year, and that's not bad. We're only about 1 growing degree day behind 2015. I'm gonna sneeze here. All the excuse me, all the pollen still flying around out here. So we're not sitting bad. The corn that I have behind me is 112 day corn. This is AgriGold 64.99. Now this is the hybrid that won the yield contest with Randy Dowdy there, and when he was pushing to get yield, this hybrid is definitely able to do it for him. This grower planted the 64.99 at 40,000 population. We were able to pull up from the Ag Leader monitor and the Agfinity app exactly what his planting population was, and it came up to about 39.9 thousand seeds. So came up well. Now when I go out and start evaluating for yield, I usually lay my tape measure out. You can see it on the ground down there. These are 30-inch rows. I'm going to mark off 17 feet 5 inches, and then I'm going to count the number of ears. Now I usually don't do the outside row of the field. Usually I get some pretty monster ears, hopefully, on that outside row, but for the sake of the video I did that. Went through, counted every ear. Some of these plants had multiple ears. Sometimes where we had multiple ears, they really didn't pollinate very well. We got a few kernels on that ear. That's where products like Yield Saver come into play. You've probably seen the Yield Saver chains with brushes on them. That can help catch some of those ears. Also ears like this can be caught. That sometimes would fall right through the plates on the combine head. So you want to try to capture every ear possible. And then we're not going to count, when I do the yield counts, I'm going to count from the bottom of the ear to the top. I'll probably, I'll stop it about right there. As the kernels are turning, are getting yellower, where the kernels start turning white. And then I'll start where the kernels are consistently around the plant. So a couple of the yield counts I did out here in this field. I'm still getting over 200 bushel, but not anything super extremely high. Obviously we're pushing for around that 300 mark for a yield contest, but I don't think it's going to take near as much this year. We'll wait and find out and see once the combines start rolling. But one thing I want to point out to you guys is that emergence is important. This is the same field that I have the flags out in, and I think Ryan from Hal Farms Work has done a couple videos on that. I'll publish some more as the corn dries down a little bit. But as we have delayed emergence, we have plants like this. They're smaller, they're skinnier. We don't have near as good of an ear on it. It didn't pollinate all the way up. Yeah, so that's going to hurt us on yield. So we want consistent emergence. Want even placement. See this little sucker here came up later. It just was shaded by the other plants the whole time. And actually this one, I didn't even husk that one there, but Here's another shorter one right there. So a shorter plant or a plant that came up later doesn't always indicate that it was planted deeper. The biggest thing is that the seeds are planted into moisture when we go out and plant them. So, you know, if we can get consistent depth of every seed planted into moisture, that's the key. So I'm not as concerned that every seed's planted at 2 inches or 2.5 inches. If that water line's at 2 inches, I probably want the seeds planted about 2.25 inches. Because there is going to be a little bit of variance in there. I just don't want any seeds planted at 1.5 inches because those seeds aren't going to find moisture, and those are going to be the last ones to come up out of the ground. But you know, count through, you know, here on the edge of the field I had about 32 good ears. Average kernels around was 16.5. Average kernel length was 34. So you do the math there. And we don't know quite what test weight's going to be. I usually take my number of viable ears, multiply it by the kernels around, by the kernels long, and then I'll use 2 numbers. And I talked to another guy at our office. This is the way he does it. He's been an agronomist for probably 30 some years. He's very respected. I said, Dan, how do you do this when you're checking yield? He's like, well, I take that number of viable ears times kernels around times kernels long, and then I divide that number by 80 to get my high end, and I divide that number by 100 to get my low end. So then, you know, lately I've been getting variance of about 30 bushels when I do that. But I'm still expecting to see this field average just over 200 bushel. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. I just flew the drone over this field. I'll have a video on that. I'm looking at variability across the field, also looking at green snap that we had in this field. It wasn't terrible, but there was some of that out there. And where we had the green snap, we had more ears like this that weren't able to pollinate all the way. So being able to capture these ears in the combine and get those kernels is going to be pretty key to yield this year. So anyway, corn looks great. Not seeing a lot for deficiency out here. You notice that we are green all the way down to the ground. A lot of corn I'm looking at right now is starting to turn yellow. Now this field had 1 single nitrogen application of anhydrous ammonia this spring. And I can tell you from scouting a lot of fields that you can really tell that the anhydrous applications are definitely holding nitrogen in the corn. I ran Adapt-N, which is our nitrogen program, and did a comparison of anhydrous ammonia versus urea versus 28, and the Adapt-N told us that we're really maintaining the nitrogen levels in the plant a lot better with anhydrous. I had 10 nitrogen units, 10 pounds of nitrogen uptake in the plant higher with anhydrous ammonia versus urea, and about 22 units of nitrogen or pounds of nitrogen uptake in the plant higher with anhydrous ammonia than we did with 28, with everything else being equal for organic matter, rainfall, temperature, that kind of thing. So the plant's ability to take up anhydrous is critical and to keeping these plants green. Otherwise, split applications of nitrogen are very key if you aren't going the anhydrous application route. So pretty neat things that we're seeing this year, but again, look how green these plants are. 112-day corn out here, not quite to the denting stage yet, but I'm not too afraid. Also, these fields for the most part are pretty clean as far as weeds go. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, email me at wiagronomist@gmail.com. Be glad to see your questions and help you out with some answers. Take care, guys.